The Texas Longhorns destroy, incapacitate, kill, maul the Michigan Wolverines 31-12. My score prediction for this game, for context, was Michigan 23, Texas 20. I was wrong, and I was wrong big time. So let's break it down, be honest, and let's analyze. I was live during this game, live covering it, and I, at times, couldn't believe what I was watching. But at other times, I knew exactly what was coming. You knew that Texas was going to pass the ball a lot, and you knew they were going to do it efficiently. And Michigan struggled all day in coverage. Wink Martindale was coached to oblivion by Steve Sarkisian. Sarkisian was coaching circles around him. Texas was better coached, better prepared, better motivated, more physical. They were better in every way. Now, that doesn't mean that Michigan didn't have any type of positive takeaways. And I say that because to say that Michigan was bad in every way would not be giving Texas the appropriate amount of credit. Texas is one of the best teams in all of college football. I thought that they would take a step back entering this year from last year because of all they lost at receiver, what they lost at running back, the fact that their defense had some areas that needed to be improved from last year. And I didn't know if they did enough in the portal, specifically on the defensive line, to make their defense a more impactful unit and a unit that could win them games. But I was wrong. 31-12. Texas just annihilated Michigan in their own stadium, mind you, in front of 100,000 passionate, angry, excited Michigan Wolverines. And you saw it in hindsight in the tunnel, where Texas is jumping around and hyping themselves up to "Hail to the Victors" as the whole stadium's singing it. What gave Texas an edge in this game, not from a coaching or even roster standpoint, which they already had plenty of that, was the fact that they were willing to match Michigan's energy. And Michigan, over the past several seasons, has done a very good job of staying calm, cool, collected, and level, but also being excited and being strong and wanting to come out swinging and punching. What did you see all game? You saw Texas do exactly that. You saw Texas being aggressive, creative, conservative when they needed to be. You saw them control the clock. If you switched the two uniforms of these teams, the only thing that would have been surprising is the fact that Texas would have been terrible at passing the football, because Texas looked like Michigan in the trenches, especially on the offensive line. Defensive line, a little bit of a different story, but they did more than enough on defense to limit a very incapacitated and handicapped Michigan offense. They were aggressive. They wanted to punch Michigan in the mouth and come right out and score. And they nearly did, if not for a missed Burt Auburn field goal and their offensive line being a little bit nervous against what I would still say is an elite D-line, perhaps still the nation's number one D-line coming at them. But Texas, what they had over Michigan, that Michigan did not have, and I said this in my preview, something similar. Texas has elite receivers. They have a proven quarterback. They had the better quarterback by a mile on the field. They had the better receivers by a mile on the field. They had the better offensive play caller, the more proven head coach. What Michigan would have had to do to win this game is win the turnover battle or have it be equal. They would have had to outrush Texas. They would have had to control the lines of scrimmage. And they would have had to have Colston Loveland have a good day, or one of the receivers have a good day. If not for that, mix in Alex Orji more and get the run game going, diversify the rushing attack, and have the defense play a good game, play their A game, and eliminate some of the concerns that were shown against Fresno State when they struggled to cover Fresno's receivers. None of that happened. I said in the preview that Texas and Michigan were both holding things back for this game. Ironically, that take aged poorly, not just because Michigan looked like complete dog poop on offense in this game, but also because Texas did not take many downfield shots. They just carved up Michigan, took what Michigan gave them. They were patient. They game controlled their way to victory in Ann Arbor. But ultimately, Michigan looked exactly like they did last week. There was no creativity. There was a flea flicker early that was about the only trick play, and all it led to was a Dominic Zvada 37-yard field goal, which is okay, except for when you're down 14-3 and it's 3rd and 2 on your own side of the field, and you've had success running the ball. Michigan consistently was running for about 4 yards per carry. At some point earlier in the game, 5 yards per carry. Why would you pass on 3rd and 2 with a quarterback who is new, whose arm strength, whose accuracy, whose mechanics, who everything about them is questionable? Same with your receiver core. And you pass on 3rd and 2. You give up your identity, try and get cute, and you pay because Texas picks it off. That is the difference, ladies and gentlemen, right now between these two teams. Outside of the fact that Texas is just more experienced, more diverse, balanced, and better on the roster, Texas knows their identity. They know their team and roster, and their team and roster know their coaching staff. That's not the case here with the Michigan Wolverines, I don't believe, after watching this utter beatdown of biblical proportions by the Texas Longhorns. Before we continue this reaction, I want you, whether you are a Texas fan, I'd actually say especially if you are a Texas fan, I'm proud of your team, and I was wrong about your team. And I gained a lot of respect and a lot of insight into Steve Sarkisian in Texas today. Regardless of who you are a fan of, I want you, yes, you, to like the video, to subscribe to the channel, to click the notification bell, to comment your reaction to this game down below. Some of you, I will say called it, but I also want to get a little bit deeper into this game because I actually do think there was a path for Michigan to play competitively or to, I'm not even going to go as far to say that they could win. Maybe, but with how bad it was today, I'm not going to go that far. I'm going to say there was a path for them to play Texas competitively, but I want to explain why that didn't happen and why Texas was so good, because they looked like one of the nation's best teams, potentially the nation's best team in the country, depending on who Georgia really is, because they really haven't been tested. Georgia hasn't played a team that is Texas's caliber. They may have played a team that was Michigan's caliber. Clemson and Michigan, I think, are similar in a lot of ways after watching today's game, but I don't know. We'll just have to see. But again, like the video, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, comment your thoughts down below. Hitting the notification bell allows you to get notified whenever I release college football content, and it also helps because the views that I will get from you instantly clicking when the notification hits, it helps us get into the algorithm. Same with liking the video, and we're going to hit 20,000 subscribers soon. Definitely this season, and we'll be doing a giveaway for that. So if you want a chance to have some rewards, subscribe to the channel, and you won't regret it because this is the best college football community and especially the best Big Ten football community on YouTube. But Texas destroyed Michigan, and we typically talk about the winners last. We save the best for last, and that is ultimately not what we are going to do today. Because Texas was so impressive that I want to get to them first. I want to say first and foremost that they are an elite team. That's what I want to say. The Texas Longhorns are an elite college football team. They may only be behind Georgia. Maybe. They are definitely ahead of, I would say, anyone in the Big Ten, barring what Ohio State does today. They're ranked ahead of Ohio State in FPI. They, in this game, looked better than I've seen Ohio State look all year. Now, Ohio State's only played in one game, but we'll have to see how they do against Western Michigan. This Texas team has a good defense. In fact, maybe I'd upgrade it to a great defense, but I don't think Michigan's offense is that good, clearly. Their offense, though, is elite. Steve Sarkisian was calling everything he could to confuse Michigan's defense, and he did just that. Texas, at the end of the day, averaged 6.8 yards per pass attempt. Earlier in the game, it was 8, maybe 9, and then obviously Texas slowed the game down. He had 3 passing touchdowns, Ewers did. And Texas's receivers averaged 10.3 yards per reception. Again, the Longhorns just took what Michigan gave them, and they marched down the field, ran for 143 yards, averaging 4.5 yards per carry. They had a long run of 55 from Ryan Wingo and a touchdown. The speed of Texas killed Michigan. Michigan, I thought, did well in the trenches. And if not for the fact that Michigan could just never get anything going on offense until the second half, with the exception of that one drive, I would say that Michigan was actually the more physical team. They weren't, but it was close, to the point where if Michigan had done some things differently, I think you could have had that takeaway. The problem is Texas was infinitely faster, they were better conditioned, and their staff put them in a position to win, straight up. Looking at their schedule, I don't see how this team doesn't beat anyone on their schedule except for Georgia. I see 11-1, maybe 12-0. That's how good this Texas team is. And they also, on defense, got a sack, 3 TFLs, 4 passes defended. They held Michigan to 3.5 yards per carry and 6.2 yards per pass attempt, but I think those numbers are manipulated a bit. Michigan had more success on the ground against Texas than they did through the air. Texas, again, at the end of the game, just played prevent. Michigan never ran the ball at the end of the game. That's why Davis Warren passed it for 33 times, and Michigan only ran it for 23 times. Michigan was actually running the ball moderately well through the third quarter. But because, like when they put in Alex Orji, for example, when Michigan did, Texas played that so well because what they just did is sent like 8, 9, 7 guys forward because they correctly guessed. And I don't even think correctly guessed. They just knew from study, from execution, that Orji was not going to pass the football. The staff would not let him pass the football. And they slowly choked out Michigan's defense and offense. Michigan looked demoralized before the half. Texas went. This is the sign of an elite team. They went 10 of 16 on third down. They constantly converted third downs, even against a great defense or when their offense wasn't in full rhythm. That's what Michigan did last year with J.J. McCarthy. They were very effective at converting third downs. And I was just, when watching Texas, I was amazed. It was honestly entertaining to watch them for how good of a team that they were. Getting push on the offensive line. Gunnar Helm had a breakout game at tight end, 7 receptions, 98 yards, a touchdown. I considered making him the game MVP. Jarrett Gibson, Quintravion Wisner, and Jaden Blue, they had good performances, keeping Michigan honest in the ground game. I'm proud of that room for fighting through the adversity of losing C.J. Baxter and just how they step up there. And they're well coached. They play hard. That's the whole team, but you see that in the running back room and the job that Texas did there. And speaking of Texas being an elite team, this really leads to the fact that I think Sarkisian is a wizard head coach, not just a wizard offensive coordinator. I kind of held that opinion even before this game that, Sarkisian's a good head coach. He's far from a bad one like he used to be. I think it's accurate when Sarkisian says that Saban changed his life. He was not a good coach. He used to not be, but now he is. After this game, I think he's better than good. He's an elite offensive mind, and maybe he's an elite head coach. I don't know. I do want to see a little bit more because he's only in year 4, and this is, outside of Alabama last year, this is probably his biggest win at Texas. This, in fact, may be his biggest win at Texas once you adjust for the fact that, they won 31-12. It was 31-6 at some point in the game. And Michigan, this is not even me hyping them up because I'm not. Michigan still has the potential to be good at the end of the year. I say that because they're a young team, and there's a very good chance Texas is the best team they'll play all year. Like, Texas could be a step above even Ohio State. And as of right now, I'd say they're certainly a step above Oregon, USC, Washington, and multiple steps ahead of anyone else who Michigan plays on their schedule outside of Oregon, Ohio State, and maybe USC. Sark has a 22-7 record, 14-4 in Big 12 conference play, soon to be SEC conference play. That's in a few weeks. Since 2022. I didn't count 2021 because that's year one, and he was cleaning up Tom Herman's mess. Tom Herman recruited well. Tom Herman, great offensive mind at Ohio State, had some good offenses at Texas. He never really got the ball rolling, and it was his fault because, again, good recruiting grounds, high talent, and just couldn't coach, honestly. Got out-coached by Lincoln Riley, by Matt Campbell, by the Big 12, and Sarkisian won the Big 12 for the first time since Mac Brown did in 2009. And they can compete for the SEC championship. I even thought that in the preseason, but I didn't think it was nearly as likely as I do now. In the preseason, I had a tough time viewing this team as someone who would win a national championship unless Georgia and Alabama were worse than I thought. After all, if you remember, I had Texas outside of my top 5 in the preseason. That's done. Sarkisian is a Wizard head coach with a great staff. Their strength and conditioning was one of the best entering the SEC even in their first year. It's only gaining more street cred, and they do a very good job of developing their players. Saw that from Xavier Worthy, for example, against the Ravens on Thursday Night Football. And that defense may be Sark's best. Maybe may even be better than the 2022, 2023 units, which were not elite, but they were great units. This is a balanced team. They'll be able to run the ball because of their offensive line, even with C.J. Baxter hurt. I really admire the job Sarkisian did today coaching. He has my respects. Texas has my respects. And let's set the objectivity aside. Michigan fan here. Like, fan moment, I'm taking off my objectivity cap for 30 seconds. I will be rooting for Texas for probably the remaining, 10 games, quick math, that they play in. And they'll play in more than 10 games. They're at this point close. I'm not going to say a lock because you never know, but I'd say close to a lock for a playoff. Because Michigan was one of the tougher teams on their schedule. I still think they are, because outside of Oklahoma and for sure Georgia, who else is on Texas's schedule that is top 25? Like, Florida is not. Arkansas is probably not. Texas A&M, they have struggles on offense, and their defense, you can wear them down. I'll be rooting for Texas, because when you're that good, you cannot be hated when you are as good as this Texas team is. When you play that clean game, you can't be hated. At that point, you're just mad that your team is not as good as Texas. This team is not overrated. If anything, after this type of win, if they're not number by AP poll, if they're not number 2, they may actually be underrated. And I'd expect them to probably be number 2 and probably receive first place votes after a game like this. That stuff really doesn't matter, but I just wanted to mention that because it's time that I and others give this team its flowers. And if you're a Texas fan, or if you're a player who somehow watches this, here are your flowers. Take them. So that's Texas out of the way. And I'll come back to them, because when a game like this happens and it's this lopsided, it's impossible to talk about only the losing team at first. You have to talk about the winner throughout the whole thing. And that's really what I'm doing here, is talking about the winner, Texas, throughout. But now I want to zoom in a little bit on Michigan. Michigan was not efficient. Michigan looked like they didn't know how to coach. It was outer space. Michigan went 3 of 12 on third down. They averaged somehow, of course, most of this was garbage time, over 6 yards per pass attempt, 3.5 yards per carry. They only had 4 penalties for 30 yards, but they were undisciplined. They had 3 turnovers, nearly 4. At halftime, Texas had 20 minutes of possession. Michigan had 10. They only had 13 first downs. At one point, Texas had 13 first downs, and Michigan had like 3. This was the worst coaching performance from a Michigan team that I have seen since 2020. If you exclude the COVID year, this is Michigan's worst coaching performance since 2017. That is disgusting, quite frankly. I'm telling you, the talent that this defense has is superior to the talent that was even on the 2021 unit. Maybe, if you only look at starters, the talent that was on the 2022 unit. But Jesse Minter is gone, and Mike Macdonald is gone. You have Wink Martindale, who is blitz happy, who likes to send pressure up the middle, and Texas abused that all game. No adjustments were made. None. And if they were made, I didn't notice. They were pretty ineffective. Texas was constantly playing to the outside. Michigan was trying to play a different game on the inside. On offense, I thought Michigan, if they stuck to the inside more, it would have worked. I thought they ran well on Texas. Well, like relative to the fact that Texas is not a bum on the defensive side of the ball. So you're only going to get 4 or 5 yards per carry, occasionally more than 10, and occasionally they will stonewall you. But stay consistent and control the clock and mix in different things. That's not what happened at all. Again, going back to that 3rd and 2 where Davis Warren passed it through his first interception, and that led Texas to, well, kick a field goal. Thankfully for Michigan at the time, only a field goal, but it still extended the lead to 2 touchdowns. And I said in my preview, if Michigan gets down by 2 touchdowns, and I agreed with many people who said that I would have a hard time seeing them come back, and that's what happened. The Colston Loveland fumble, I think, was the epitome of the whole game. Michigan did not know how to respond to a team that matched their energy and that matched their physicality. And they weren't as well coached. They weren't as disciplined. They were not as experienced, not as tough, not as physical. Honestly, in the trenches, Michigan's probably as physically strong. They may even be more talented overall in the trenches than Texas is. But that coaching job by Wink Martindale and Kirk Campbell, I don't know what to tell you outside of what I just did, putting my hands up. Michigan kicking a field goal with 5 minutes left in the third quarter is capitulating. It's playing to not get blown out. That's not what Michigan has done under Harbaugh. That's not what Sharon Moore has traditionally done. I think Moore must be, unless he is just not cut out for the job one bit. And I don't want to go down that rabbit hole and maybe in saying that I made a mistake. But I think he just figured we need to hit the reset button. We need to get on out of here. We need to practice with Warren and then see what we can do against Arkansas State, because there have to be changes. I mean, Kirk Campbell, why are you going pass happy when your quarterback is a walk-on, when your starting receivers outside of Loveland have not had even close to 500 yards in their Michigan careers, when they're young, inexperienced? Like, what are you doing? It was night and day between Texas and Michigan in terms of coaching. Texas was playing at peak efficiency, or just below peak efficiency. They were playing an A-, B+ game, maybe AA+ game. Michigan played like their, C+, B-, maybe B at best game. Michigan and Texas, if they play at their best, and I probably mentioned this in the preview, if they play at their best, Texas wins. But it would have been a close win. Texas played closer to their ceiling than Michigan did. And that's on the coaches. That's straight up on the coaches. Imagine what Steve Sarkisian and his staff would do with this Michigan team against that Texas team. They would have ran the football more. They would have tried to find ways to get Michigan's receivers in better space. They would have ran it on 3rd and 2, not passed it. And that's that right there. And they would have changed. They would have adjusted the defense, as Texas did. Texas adjusted their defense throughout the game to limit Michigan's offense more than it was limiting itself. Texas's coaching staff's awesome, and Michigan's has a lot of questions after this game. Against Arkansas State, treat that like an open practice because USC is going to pass on this secondary. This is a 2021 level secondary. It's not 2022 or 2023 where you can lock down Ohio State through the air, where you can lock down Washington through the air. Just watched a bad interception by Cade McNamara, but we're talking about Michigan and Texas here. This is a secondary that will let a near elite quarterback and an elite receiver room pass on you for over 200, 250, 300 yards in a very efficient game. They will do that. You have to rely defensively to play a little bit bend but don't break, to get to the quarterback, to make teams one-dimensional, and only pass the football so that you can be a little bit more aggressive in pass defense, and your offense has to score. There are too many liabilities on offense, and the secondary is not a typical liability, but against a passing offense like Texas, USC, Oregon, if they get their stuff figured out, it's going to be a liability against those. And with the defense that Ohio State has and the potential that they have on offense with their skill position players, that doesn't look like it's a game that Michigan will win right now. Worst coached game since 2020. Michigan is not efficient. This is an 8-4, 9-3 caliber team. If they can get their stuff figured out, maybe at best 10-2. I don't see how Michigan's beating Ohio State right now. I just don't. Doesn't mean it's a guaranteed L. Nothing is guaranteed. But I don't see it right now. And I have a hard time seeing Michigan beating Oregon. I even have a tough time seeing them beat USC, who I don't even think is a top 15 team. And I think that's a tough time due to matchups. And the fact that USC is encouraged. USC started off with a good win. They have some momentum. Michigan, you'll know over the next 2-3 weeks how tough this team is because they suffered their worst loss since the COVID year. Many of these players were not even on the 2020 team. Michigan lost for the first time with fans in the stands since 2019 against Ohio State, and it was a blowout just like that game. You'll see how this team responds to the adversity, and you'll know whether they're tough and how high their ceiling is in the next few weeks, just from a leadership and coaching standpoint. But this team right now is not efficient. They do not know how to put their players in the best position to win. And I'm not going to go this far, but a part of me feels like they need to know their roster better. Like, is Orji really that bad to where you can only put him in on 2 plays and you can never let him pass the football? Is Davis Warren really look that good in practice? Is this defense really one of the best in the country? Can you send pressure up the middle as much as Wink Martindale does and reliably beat good teams? Like, I don't know. I don't think so right now. So Michigan has a lot of self-reflection to go through. And finally, the game MVP, this will be quick because I've already mentioned his stat line, in my mind is Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers was not just well-coached and put in good positions to win and have success by Steve Sarkisian, but 24 of 36 for 246 yards, 3 touchdowns, a 151.6 rating. He was performing better than that. He just slowed down the game and was not trying to be as aggressive as he was in the first half and third quarter because Texas, after halftime, and I think after that Ryan Wingo 55-yard end around, realized, yeah, this game's over. Let's focus on bigger and better things to come. And they won 31-12. Ewers and I would say Gunnar Helm, those two in particular, being a big part of today's win. Huge win. Program-altering win over Michigan. Not that Texas was going anywhere bad program-wise, but last year they went on the road and beat Alabama. This year going on the road and beating Michigan, it reinforces the fact that Texas is back, that they can beat good teams, and that they are a program who is not to be toyed with and one of the best in all of college football. Thank you so much for watching this video. Remember to like, subscribe, click the notification bell, and comment your thoughts down below. Thanks to Crash2488 and Brasco Rascal for being Heisman Patreon members. Thanks to Chris Lane, Connor Little, OH, Ismar, and Tyler Nye for being All-American members. Thanks to John Lynn, Roaming Gnome, Matthew Sale, Austin Christmas, and Janai Shakakro for being All-Conference Patreon members. If you want to purchase merchandise like what I'm wearing in today's video, you can check out the link in the description or down below in the pinned comment. I also have merchandise available free, signed by me, if you sign up as a Heisman member for 6 months at $25 a month. But you can just find it on my merchandise store if you want to, again, via the link in the description or down below in the pinned comment, with no membership attached, though you'll have to pay. Also, in the description and pinned comment is where you will find my Patreon page. Have a great day, guys, and I will see you all soon. Bye-bye.